Hey everybody, welcome to subscriber Q&A at J Stern Designs. I'm like super excited to start this new live I'm going to do most Wednesdays. I mean, my goal is to do it every Wednesday, but if I'm traveling or teaching, I might have to skip a week, but let's not get into that. The reason why I decided to add this to my weekly roundup of videos is because sometimes when I'm doing my questions on my channel, I come upon someone's question that's really a little bit too involved to answer or reply to in the comment section. And so I thought I would tackle those here. And um, I'm gonna sort of streamline the content for next week. I'll tell you what the topic is so you can bring your related questions. I told everybody to bring their questions, and if you have questions, um, I'm going to answer them, but I think it would make more sense if you have questions related to the topics that I'm going to talk about in live, then you guys can join in and ask questions about that. But I mean, if you have a question that's not related to what I'm going to talk about today, please ask that as well. Let me just stop and welcome. Hey, Deb. She says she wishes she could be here, but she has to start work at 18:00. Sorry about that, Deb, but just know these will live in a playlist on my channel. So if you miss it, you can go back and watch it. Hey, DIYer girl. Hey, Ann. Welcome, ladies. All right. So today, and of course, I'm going to play around with this and see how it works out. But I basically printed a question. So I'm going to start by reading what the question is. And then I'm going to show you how I would deal with it. And this is kind of a cool question to start with because it's multifaceted, which made it one of the reasons why I decided it'd be better in a video form. Hey Diane, welcome. You think this is a great idea? Thanks. Sewing My Happy Place, Pauline Fisher is here. Welcome from the UK. And hey Sally, welcome. All right, so let me read the question I got on my channel last week. It says, oh, and I guess because if people post their questions on my channel, they're already public. So I didn't ask her permission to read it in this video, but I'm assuming that's okay because she posted it as a public question. She did not email me privately. So let me read this. I'm really enjoying your videos. I've always had a problem with tops. I am 5'4", overweight, apple-shaped, short-waisted, narrow shoulders in the front, broad back shoulder blades, big-chested. My bust and underarm area are one and the same. My bra strap are always too far off and they fall off my shoulders. I'm 5/8 inch narrower than my sister between the neck and my shoulders along the shoulder seam. So given what I've seen from your video so far, I think I need to increase the bust in the front as you did here, slash and move the upper bust shoulder area smaller towards the center line of the pattern, shorten the pattern by cutting and moving it up however many inches it needs, then slash and increase the back armhole shoulder blade area similar to what you did in the front for the bust. Do I shorten the pattern first, then what? Front shoulder area, bust, then back? Would you be able to give me a starting point? Yes, I'm going to give you a starting point. So you can see this is a pretty involved question. So I've already mapped out the plan. Let me just stop and say hi to Sandy. Hi, Sandy. You're finally getting a chance to watch live. I'm so happy you've joined us. Thank you so much. So let me get right into this. So the other thing about this live is I'm going to try to keep it a short 45 minutes because I pick up my granddaughter at 2 o'clock and I wanted to fit it in before then because once she gets here, I like to do crafts and fun projects and go to the park with her. So I'm going to try to keep it short, although today I don't have to pick her up, so if I run over, it's okay. So let me just switch my view here. And what I did was I made a plan on a front bodice piece. So these are just little minis that I'm going to be working with. And so the plan is going to be to do the vertical adjustments first. So that's going to be the plan. And I just saw a bunch of people come in. So let me just welcome. I just described somebody, but I really don't want to pronounce your name because I'm afraid I will totally kill it. But welcome, welcome. Amy says good morning from the West Coast. Escape 10 Mom says hi from Wellington, Florida. And she's taking notes. Again, I'm so sorry. I don't want to say your name out loud because I'm afraid I will kill it. Sally says, I love the questions about best order for adjustments. Yes, so see, this is why I think this is fun. And I did comment on her question that I would be doing this today. So if she pops in, that's great. And if she doesn't, I'm trying to just tackle everything for her. So when she goes and watches it later, she'll have a good plan. So the first plan is we want to get everything in the vertical direction. We have a lot of stuff going on. We have narrow shoulder. Her shoulders are more narrow. Arc Wade, like Noah in the pond and a pond. Okay, all right, Arc Wade. Well, I'm glad you're taking notes, and welcome, and thank you for telling me how to pronounce your name. Okay, so when you're working with a pattern, you always want to get anything that might need to be in the correct vertical position in the vertical position first. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a full bust adjustment later because she's going to need room in her bust. But the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure the bust dart is in the right spot. So I'm just going to quickly show you what to do for that. And I have videos showing how to get the bust in the right spot vertically. So I'm not going to like do a ton of, this is going to be a quickie here. What you're going to do is you're going to measure from your shoulder seam down to your bust on your body. So if I just take a tape measure and get to my shoulder and then measure down to my apex, you're going to do that so you know what the distance is. And then you're going to measure your pattern from the shoulder to where the bust dart is. Now, if you've got a large bust like a D or D plus size, you're going to want your bust dart to be approximately an inch lower than your apex. So let's say that when we measured the pattern, the dart was a little bit too high, and that can happen even if you're short-waisted. So remember, we're working with someone who has, a short waist, and I'm just going to draw a waistline in here. So let's say this is where the waistline is, okay? A lot of times, if you're short-waisted, from your shoulder through your bust ends up to be really close to where your waist is. And that's okay, because if that's where it needs to be, that's where it needs to be. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to say, all right, we need to lower this an inch. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure down an inch to where it needs to go. And I'm just going to make a little guideline here. So this is where we'd want the dart to be, so it agrees with our body and it's about an inch lower than our apex. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a little rectangle around the dart. It doesn't matter where this rectangle is, but basically you're just going to draw a rectangle around it. Then you're going to cut it out and slide it down. And what you're going to do is you're just going to slide it down until the tip of the dart is 1 inch lower. Now this looks kind of funny on this, you know, on this small scale pattern, but basically now the dart is 1 inch lower than the measurement of the body. So that is the first step, getting that bust dart in the right spot, because if the bust dart is not in the right spot, then what happens is the fullness and cup shape that it's creating will be up too high for you, and you'll get like a bubble here and it'll be too tight here. Putting the dart in the right spot allows you to then evaluate how much extra you need to add. So we've moved our dart down, and I'm just going to true up my side seam like this, you know, by just filling that in. All right, so that's the first step. Now, if you need to, you know, you can always measure from your shoulder down to the waistline and get that into position too. But if you've got an apple shape and you don't have a defined waist, a better option, instead of worrying about moving the waistline, is to fill it in if it's got some waist shaping. So this has no waist shaping. This is just a straight side seam. But let's say the original, you know, the original side of the pattern dipped in for a waist. I would just straighten it out, because if you don't dip in where your waist is, then it's just going to be tight there anyway. And then it really doesn't matter where on the pattern the waist is. After you've created, you know, fit the pattern, there are ways to create subtle shaping or the look of shaping. But if you are apple shaped, you don't need the side seams to come in if you don't come in. So I'm just going to straighten that out for now. And let me just see here. Escape 10 Mom asks, so you're saying the bust darts should be an inch below where your apex hits? Yes, if you've got a large cup size. So if you're a D plus cup, I like my dart to be about an inch below. I'm a G cup. So if you've got a small D, a C, a B, or an A, it can be closer, like a half an inch below. That's a good question. So it really depends on what your cup size is. But you want to have it be farther away from the apex, the larger the cup size. So that's a rough estimate. Here's another thing. You can baste your dart in, and if it looks like it's, you know, if it's not in the right spot, you can adjust it once you have a muslin on, but that's a general guideline. So now I've got the bust in the right spot, and I've sort of taken care of worrying about what the waist is doing for now by just straightening out the side seam. So vertically we're correct. Now if you straightened out your side seam in the front and your back pattern piece had a curve, I would straighten that out as well, just because it will keep your side seams the same length, because a curved line is longer than a straight line. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is we're going to start back up at the shoulder. She needs to bring her tip of her shoulder in because things always fall off of her. So what we're going to do is we are going to simply draw ourselves a line in the middle of the shoulder to the middle of the armhole like this. And the reason why I'm drawing a line to the middle of the armhole is because you want to come into the armhole somewhere where it's relatively perpendicular to this slash. That makes less of a truing up issue. If I drew the line down here somewhere in the curve, that would make it harder to true that up. So somewhere where you're coming into the perpendicular shape or the straight edge of your front armhole, and we want to remove 5/8 of an inch. For this tiny pattern, I'm just gonna remove a 1/4 inch because it's so small. So I'm just going to draw myself a 1/4 inch away. All right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide it in. So literally I'm not changing anything except I'm shortening the shoulder a 1/4 inch for this small scale, but you would do 5/8 of an inch for your for this example, or whatever it is that you need to shorten your shoulder. Now, the way you can tell if you need to shorten your shoulder is you want to feel for where the joint is, you know, on the tip of your shoulder. That's where your shoulder seam should be. So if your shoulder seam is hanging off, the amount it's hanging off is the amount you would need to shorten here. Okay, so notice now I've got this little bit of a thing going on. You want to find the center of the adjustment. So see, I'm just going to draw that in blue right there. That's the center. So basically I'm going to trim some off the bottom part and I'm going to add some to the top part to fill that back in. So that's going to fix our armhole and kind of put it back. But notice the tip of the shoulder is still in the amount we took it. We just trued that up, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. All right, so that's taking care of the front. Now, the back is going to need the same adjustment. We're going to shorten the shoulder. And again, notice I'm going somewhere where it's perpendicular, right? And then I'm just going to cut this. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just dash in my 1/4 inch here. Okay. And I'm going to cut this off. And again, we're just going to slide it right in. Now, depending on the slope of the shoulder of the pattern that you're working with, you may have to true the top of the shoulder up too. Notice there's a little jog there, right? So what you're going to do to fix that is you're just going to put your ruler on the original ends of the shoulder seam and put a ruler there and just redraw that like that. And then again, find the middle of the adjustment, and then you're going to skim some off the bottom, add some to the top or above like this to redraw your back armhole. Hey Racer Girl, welcome. Okay, so now we've taken care of the fact that the shoulders always fall off. So we've gotten the bust dart in the vertical position where we need it. We've shortened our shoulders. And this is a common problem for women. You may have narrow shoulders, but then you may have a large bust, and then you may also have a more broad back. And that's something that we can fix now that we've taken care of getting the shoulder to be the right length. Okay, so let's just start in the front here. We'll do the full bust adjustment. And again, I'm just going to do this really kind of quick. I think after I get off, I will, if I have videos that handle these details in more detailed fashion, I will put links to them below here. But just to give you a quickie here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out my dart like this. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line from the tip of the dart across the horizontal. And then I'm going to draw a diagonal line from wherever the front notch is. So let's pretend the front notch is right there in the armhole. I'm going to draw a diagonal line from there to there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the bottom part of the pattern. Okay. And I'm going to slash through the diagonal. And I'm going to create a pivot there so I can push this out. Okay, so see what this allows me to do is it allows me to open this up a little bit. And if you're wondering um, how to tell how much of a full bust adjustment you need, if you measure across the pattern and then you measure yourself across the pattern, however much of a difference you have to go get to center is how much you're going to need to add. So if you're working with a half pattern, and let's say from the center front to the side seam right under the armhole, it measures 10 inches, but you measure 12 inches, you're going to need to add 2 inches. So you'd only need to add half of that to the side, to each side, because if you add an inch here, you'd be also adding an inch over on the other side when you cut out 2 fronts. So let's just say we figured out we needed to add an inch total. So I can spread this a half an inch. And I'm just going to fill this in with a Post-it note. Hi, Lois. Welcome. All right, so I'm just going to stick this on over here. And what I'm doing is I am measuring the half inch right down there at the base of the diagonal slash line. Okay, and then I'm going to just close that or tape that down. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another Post-it note over here, and I'm going to mark a half an inch this way. I'm also going to continue my center front line because that needs to stay straight, like that. And then I'm basically going to reattach the lower portion of the pattern. So you can see now what I've done is I've added both vertical and horizontal to make room for the bust. And then to finish this off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just fill the dart in with paper. I'm just going to keep with this green because that's working for me so you can see what I've busted open here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to reestablish the dart, you know, where it was, so right there. And then we're going to measure this upper dart leg. So from the tip of the dart to here, we'll say this is 2.5 inches. So when I go to redraw the lower dart leg, I want to make sure it's also 2.5 inches. So you're going to see what's going to happen here is you're going to see it goes out to here, and then you're going to have to add to the side seam like this. So there's my new dart. Okay. And I had to extend the lower dart leg to match vertically with the top dart. Okay, and if you're wondering how to, oh, let me see, we have a question. How far down do you go to slash from the armhole to the tip of the dart? You want to look for the front notch on the armhole. So this is the front notch right here. Okay, so just look for the front notch and then do the diagonal slash from there down to the dart point. Let me know if that makes sense. Is the tip of the dart too low? No, we didn't change it. See, it's right here. We just added more vertical length because when you do a bust adjustment, you might need more width, but you also need more vertical length to go up and over your bust. Now, another way you can tell if you need, you know, what you may need is if you look at your shirt and the hem is picking up at center front, that's because the fabric going over your bust is shortening the hem, and that can also help with, you know, determining how much you need to spread these things. And it could be that you want to spread the vertical a little bit differently than the diagonal if you, okay, so you could have a big bust and it could be very flat against you, and that could be caused by either your shape or the bra you're wearing like I always wear sports bras, so I'm always smushed. But if you wear a perky cup bra, you might project out more. And if you project out more, you may need more vertical length to get up and over your bust. So your bra or your actual physical shape of your bust can affect whether or not you need to make more length. You can drop this down farther and it's going to go into the dart. So you're not changing the shoulder, the side seam length, because you're just making the dart intake bigger. So I hope that answers your question. Arc Wade, let me know. And I think I didn't say hello to Lois. Welcome, Lois. Thank you for joining us. All right, so we've done that. Now, this looks kind of funky. So how do we get the side seam back together? What you're going to do is you're literally going to fold your dart up like this. And actually, if you've got a D+ cup, fold it so the dart intake goes up, because I think that I've heard from other fitting professionals that can be minimizing to have the dart, the dart intake folded up. Okay, so I folded that into position. Then if you cut out your side seam, it's going to give you the shape of the dart. So let's just look at that now. All right, so see, now that looks like a more traditional pattern. You can kind of see how that's going to go. So we've taken care of narrowing the shoulders. Well, first getting the dart in the right place and addressing our shaping at the waist. We've also narrowed the shoulders. Now we've added room for the bust. So now we're going to deal with the last issue, which is a broad back. And this can be tricky because if we've brought the shoulder in, we've actually narrowed it. So what we've done so far in the back is we've actually, maybe even taken it in a little bit, right? So now what we're going to have to do is build room in for a broad back. And that adjustment, I thought about it, and I will tell you that there are lots of ways to do a broad back adjustment, and I just want to show you a few things here. This would be, I would say, the simplest way to do it, and this is the adjustment where you actually slash your stitching line and open it up. Okay, so this is a method of adjusting a pattern I don't do very often. You slash the stitching line, make pivots, and then pull out the pattern to make the broad back right there. Okay, so that's one way to do it, and I'll show you quickly how to do that in a minute. Another way you can do it is slash and spread. Now when you slash and spread, you can see we're creating pivots here, in the armhole, and down at the side seam, so we can pull this whole section out a little bit. Now, this is a good option if you need extra, not up at the very top at the base of your neck, but a little bit lower, like in the middle of the armhole through the base of the armhole. This is a great option if that's where the broad back is, versus if you need it up a little higher. So this is if it's up higher in your armhole area, and this is if your broad back extends past, towards the bottom of your armhole. Oh, Riff Raff, Ray's here. Hey, arrived late watching Rapley. Definitely need the 22 minutes I missed. All of the list you just said. Yes, definitely go back and watch the replay. So you can see the difference there and there. Now there's one other option. Sometimes I like to play with really isolating the adjustment. So here, this would be similar to this one, okay, but the difference is once we do this one, we've opened up the shoulder, so then we have to put the shoulder back, and the way you put the shoulder back is by using the original pattern to just redraw the shoulder. And what this one does, and what makes this a little bit different, is depending on how your fullness is, sometimes you might need a wider neck opening in the back than in the front. So this option actually makes the neck opening, however much you have to spread the shoulder seam to get your adjustment up here, you take it off of the neckline edge, so you have more fabric, a wider neckline in the back. So those are the three options I have. So it really depends on what the shape of your full upper back is. Is it near your neckline? Is it right at the base of your neck where you need a broader, if you feel like your back necklines are always tight? Or is it, up high but not near your neck? Or is it your whole upper back to your waist? Those are the three options. And I should have mentioned this in the beginning. I really recommend having two mirrors to do your fitting, because if you make yourself a half muslin and put it on, and if you have the ability to look at yourself in the front but then also see your back without twisting and turning, that really helps you to see where the fullness is and what kind of, where you might need to have that adjustment. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to do these options. I think I made enough. Yeah, I made enough copies. So let's just say our front is finished, right? Because we handled everything in our front. So this is all set. Oops, let me just show you. So the front's all set. I'm going to put that aside. And to work on the back, I'll show you the first option on the one that we already adjusted the Karen just popped in and she goes, "Hi, Jen. This is Karen from Massachusetts. More Jen weekly? That's fantastic. Wow. I'm glad you think it's more fantastic to have more Jen in the week." All right. So let's do this one first, because I think this one, based on the description from the subscriber I'm answering the question, it sounded to me like she needed to have it up, a broad upper back like this. So I'm going to show you how to do this one first. And this is kind of cool because it's really simple and you really don't have to redraw anything except smooth out the armhole. So let me just show you. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to draw in my seam line. And for the purposes of this video, or for this sample, I'm going to just draw in a 1/4 inch seam allowance because it's tiny, but really you would draw if it was 5/8 or a 1/2 inch, whatever your pattern is. So I'm just gonna draw this in. Now remember, I'm using my trued up line. So the line that I drew to true up the armhole after I made the narrow shoulder adjustment. So see why it's important to do the narrow shoulder adjustment first, because now I've got my stitching line, which is different because I changed the outer edge of that armhole. So my shoulder seam would be here and my side seam would be here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to create, let me just make sure this is really taped so it doesn't come apart except for where I want it to come apart. All right, so we are going to make pivots here, let's say right here and over here. Okay, because we want to be, oops, I'm sorry, here. Sorry, not this one. We want to be able to pull this out to make room for the broad back here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to cut this right along my stitching line, but I'm stopping at the dots, and then I'm just going to go in from the outside and I'm going to create pivots. So we want to get close, but not right on top of it, like this. Whoop. Okay, so watch how easy this is now that I've made these pivots. I can pull this out gently. And just keep in mind, this is a really small, oh, and see how I broke that one right there? Like I broke it off. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so if you break a pivot, that's okay. It's only paper. Put a tiny piece of Scotch tape like that, and then just recut your pivot. And actually the Scotch tape will support or create a stronger pivot. So see, I'm just going to reestablish my pivot here. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Just going to put a post-it note under there so you can see what's happening. I'm just going to literally pull this out. Okay, and I'm going to allow the fabric to overlap on the outer edges like this. But you can see what's happening is as you pull it out, you're creating the room you need. Now, if I can pull that out almost a 1/4 inch on this tiny little pretend bodice pattern piece, you'll be able to pull that out a fair amount, probably not more than 1 inch. I don't know the exact, it depends on what size you're working on, but you can see here, we can pull this out. And then what you're going to do is tape it down. Okay, and then just make sure there's nothing funny with the armhole. And really, I think if I just redraw this outer edge here, you know, it's still okay. All right, so that's how you do the stitching line method of adding room for the broad back. And then let's do the slash and spread method. So if you want to add more, you know, more room. So the guidelines you're going to draw for this are from the, oh, let me just quickly draw my seam allowances in here. I could have had that prepped before I came on. I'm just going to eyeball it. My seam allowance. And then my seam allowance. And then my seam allowance. Okay, so I'm going to draw a guideline that puts me from the tip of the shoulder at the neckline down to the side seam. And the goal here is I don't want to be right on top of my stitching line. You need a little bit of breathing room here. So I'm just going to draw it like this. Okay. And then I'm going to draw a second one here. And then I need to draw a third one in to the stitching line. And my pivots are going to be here, 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 and here. Okay, it looks like a funky little diagram. So what we're going to do to make this work for us, and I'm going to go ahead and just put a little Scotch tape on all my pivots because I know that it will make them stronger, and that way I have less of a chance of actually ripping through them. Okay, so again, I'm going to cut through. First we'll do my long vertical or diagonal line here. I'm going to cut into the armhole and the short one. Then let me just get rid of a little bit of this paper. This will make it easier. Then I won't have to trim in so far. All right, so basically now what I'm going to do from the outer side, I'm literally just going to clip in to, oops, I cut that one. Clip in there, clip in here. Notice I didn't cry when I broke one of my pivots. It's really not a big deal. You can just tape it up again and fix it. See, the whole idea is you need the pivots so you can manipulate the pattern, right? But you also need the pivots to control the shape of the outer edges. You don't want to add anything to the outside edges. So that's why the pivots are kind of important to stay intact, but then they need to be really, you know, so you can move. Okay, so now in this case, I'm going to put a sticky note in the middle. So basically, to get this one to work, I'm going to pull out here, and the rest will open up for you. So if you pull the armhole, the short notch here, or the short, you know, slash there, that basically opens up the whole adjustment for you. So you figure out how much you need to add in there and pull it out there. Now, obviously, you don't want to pull it out so far that you distort your armhole too much. But again, if I'm working with this tiny little section and I can pull it out that much, which is more than 1/4 of an inch, you can add a significant amount to your full-size pattern. So I'm just gonna give myself some green right here just so you can see the full view. And then I'm just gonna fill this in over here just so you can see. All right. So that's how you do that one. And see, the only thing that got a little affected here is there's a little blip in my armhole right here. So all you really need to do is just smooth that out. Like that. Okay, so that's how you broaden this area. But notice it's broadening it farther and a little bit lower down than this one. This one's up a little bit higher, right? All right, so those are the first 2 ways. And then the final way, which I'm just going to quickly show you how to do it. This is if you really just want to isolate it. And I would only do this method if I really felt like I needed more room or a longer back neckline. Because that happens sometimes that you need, you know, if you have a broad back, it could go across your shoulders, through your neck, you know, the base of your neck, and you may need a bigger neckline. Notice this one does not affect the length of the back neckline, nor does this one. Okay, but if you need to make your neckline a little bit longer, what you're going to do is you're just going to make these 2 slash marks from the, oh, let me just draw my seam allowances here. There's my seam allowances. So you're going to draw a line from here to sort of somewhere near the, you know, before the curve, but somewhere down there, and then connect it up at the tip over here. Okay, so you're making this Y shape. And then again, we're going to pivot here, here, and here. Well, actually, this isn't going to be a pivot. This is actually going to be a complete, this is going to come straight out. So when we cut this open, we're going to, let's get rid of that paper. We're going to actually come straight through here, but we're going to pivot here and here. So I'm going to make a pivot there and a pivot here. And then this breaks open, so it allows us to open it like this. Okay. So this is if we just, this is really just at the very top of the, you know, top of the upper back like that. I think I might be running out of my Post-it notes. Oh, these Post-it notes. It has lines on it, but it'll work just as nicely here. Okay, so I'm just gonna stick this right under here so you can see. Okay, so you pull this out. And actually, I closed my pivot a little bit too much. So you pivot this out and pivot this out to match like this. I'm going to tape that down. Okay, so what you've got is I pivoted this up and this up, and you can see what we have now is we added to the shoulder this much right here, right? So we want our shoulder seam, we can't make our shoulder seam longer in the back because we've already made it shorter because we have a narrow shoulder. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a copy of the original pattern, I'm going to line it up with the new tip of my shoulder here, and then I'm going to just redraw the length of the shoulder. Like this. And then I'm just going to redraw the neckline like this. Okay, so the shoulder is coming out farther in the back, but you may need it in the back. Okay, so again, if I cut this out so you can see what's happening here, this is just going to see now we've got a wider neckline, but the shoulder still matches. So if I compare this adjusted shoulder to the original front that we shortened, oh, I can't do it to that. I have to do it to the front that I didn't adjust yet. So you can see those still match up. Okay. It's just what we've done is we've made a wider neckline here. Okay, so this gives you more room or width at your center back. All right, so that's the third way to do it. So I think we've covered every issue that we need to fix this pattern for these fitting adjustments. So we've got the back. Oops, let me just make it bigger so you can see everything that we did. So we have our finished front. And then we've got our completed back 3 different ways. All right, so that's my first subscriber Q&A in the bucket. I'm like super excited, and I just want to thank you guys for joining me because I didn't know if anybody would come since I decided last minute I would start it this week. If anybody, if anybody has any questions they want to talk about now, please feel free to ask. I'll hang out a minute and see, and if no one has questions, we're going to call it for today, but I'm super excited. I think this is going to be a fun addition to my weekly lineup. I love getting together with you guys, and like I said, if I know I'm helping at least one person who specifically needs something, then I know other people probably need help with it as well. So I think you can see why this was a good choice for a video answer versus me trying to respond in the comment section. DIYer Girl says, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Riffraff Ray says, it's very helpful to have a variety to consider. Sally says, great session. I know a lot of this is in your other videos, but it's good to have a review. Well, that's the other thing. That's a good point, Sally, because, I do these videos and, you can find how to do this here and then how to do that there. But if you've got a lot of things going on and you take the time to type out a question to me, sometimes it just makes sense to show it all together in one place. So that's what we did here. Karen says, oh, this was great. And Escape 10 Mom says, love these live Q&As. Lois said, this is my favorite topic. You make adjustments look so easy and you explain so well. Thank you so much. Amy says, appreciate you taking the time to go into depth on an adjustment. Thanks. You're so welcome. And Ingrid says, a late good Pesa to you. Thank you. Happy Pesa to you as well. Oh, I love it. All right. So, going forward, I will announce what the question is going to be when I announce the live. So if you have related questions that you want to bring, you're prepared. Or if you have your own questions, please bring them with you. I'll be prepared to answer, questions on the spot. And if I don't know the answer, um, I'll answer it in the next week's live. Oh, Karen wants to know, how did I learn all this? I have been Okay, so I started J Stern Designs in 2007. And before that, I worked at a sewing store, and I have a very good friend. His name is Eric, and he is a amazing pattern drafter, and he actually taught me a lot about drafting patterns and making patterns and grading patterns. And then I just started teaching fitting. So my whole goal when I started J Stern Designs was to make really good patterns that are easy to fit, but then also teach people how to fit them. So if any of you are watching me and you haven't tried any of my patterns, I recommend maybe giving a pattern a try, because I know they're drafted well, so they're easier to fit than other patterns might be, although there are a lot of other wonderful patterns out there as well. But I just over time started teaching fitting my patterns, and I've learned so much along the way. And if any of you follow along with me on a regular basis, you probably know that pants fitting is my favorite. So I'm sure you'll be seeing some pants fitting editions of this in the future. But feel free to, if you post a question under a video on my channel here, you may see it as a topic here, or if you email me. And if you email me, just know I'm going to ask you if I can share it. I will ask before. If anyone emails me, I always ask. But I just really enjoy fitting, my favorite, and drafting. Those are my two favorite things. And I think I basically learned it from practicing fitting people in live classes, to be honest with you. I mean, that's where I learned most of it. Anne says, this was wonderful. Thank you, Anne. Frances says, this was great. Always learn so much from you. Hi, Jen. What can I do if the fabric at the blouse forms a crease at the back neckline? Okay, so a crease in a fabric at the back neckline. So does that mean the fabric is bunching up across the back of your neck? Let me know more about that, Manna. Let me know. Maybe describe more clearly for me what kind of crease you mean. Because is it a vertical crease? Is it a horizontal crease? And then maybe we'll deal with that next week. So keep me posted on that. And maybe if you want to email me some pictures too, I can see what's going on. That's another thing that can help with that. Karen says, do you have a straight leg knit pants pattern? Yes, I do. I have my Easy Pull-On Pants, which is a straight leg pants pattern, and you can make shorts and you can make pants from it. And I actually have quite a few of them in my collection now, and I've been pulling them out and wearing them already in April, because in Connecticut it was like almost 90, well, it was 90 degrees last week. So I've been making good use of my straight leg knit easy pull-on pants pattern. Escape 10 Mom says, I've only been following you for a short time, but so worth it. Thank you. Well, thank you for following along with me. I really, really appreciate it. And DIYer Girl says, can we expect 45-minute sessions? Yes. Yes. I can see we've gone over a little bit today, but on normal Wednesdays, like I said, I have to pick up my granddaughter at 2, so I'm going to try to keep it to 45 minutes. Oh, Manna's back with more explanation. At the back neckline, it's too much fabric, but the shoulder is correct. Okay, is it too much fabric vertically? Meaning, is it pulling up, pretend this is the back of my head. Is it pulling up like this, a crease this way, or is it pulling like this, like a vertical too much? Let me know about that, because if it's vertical, we can get rid of it by making it narrower. If it's horizontal crease, then it's a vertical problem. So I need to know which way the crease is going. Is it going across or is it going down? So let me know about that, and I will answer that next week. And actually, I had here 2 more questions. So the other questions I have that I probably will do next week, I'm gonna do Manna's question when I find out if it's horizontal or vertical, and then also how to shorten an armhole in ready-to-wear, and how to adjust ready-to-wear pants for a flat butt after weight loss in men's pants. So those are things I have on my list that I can build into next week as well. But I do want to help Manna. I just need to know which way there's too much fabric, vertically or horizontally, because those are 2 different things. So hopefully, Manna, you let me know. I'm going to put my email, jsterndesigns37@gmail. So if anybody wants to email me, you can email me there. And if you want to send me pictures, that could help too. So yay, I think this was a pretty, oh, it's horizontal. Okay, so I will work on that for next week. And if you want to email me some pictures of how it looks that I can share with the group next week, you can do that too. And if you don't want to, that's okay as well. I'll just go with what I'm visually imagining, the fabric getting backed up onto the back of your neck. So I will work on some solutions for that for you for next week. So see, we already have something to do next week. This is so much fun. All right, so I just want to thank all of you for joining me, because like I said, there's a little bit of a thing when I plan something and I come on, sometimes I think to myself, oh my gosh, am I going to be talking to the air? So I really appreciate each and every one of you for joining me. And I will see you on Friday for FabFit Friday. And just because you watched me today, I'm just going to show you, I'm super excited. I think what I'm going to do, here is the front of my bias cut shorts I'm working on. Look how pretty the inside looks. And I think what I'm going to do is make these pull on for me, because my high hip and my waist are almost identical. So I'll be showing my process with this, and I'm going to baste them together and try them on when I get off today, so you can see the fit. But I'm dying to see how the bias is going to fit me. I'm like super excited. So this is what we'll be working on Friday. All right. So Diane says, thanks, Jen. New feature is very helpful and interesting. Thank you, thank you. And Riff Raff Ray says, and it's the hanger, right? Now we have to come back and see what happens. Yep, I guess you do. It's always good to end with a cliffhanger. So join me Friday to see what's going on with the bias cut Japanese fabric cotton woven shorts. And then we're going to help Manna with her too much fabric in her back neckline next week, along with a couple of these other things. So thank you guys so much. I will see you Friday, and have a lovely rest of your day. All right. Bye.